A gray-haired man stands at the gates of a 47 million naira mansion, gripping a mop in one hand and a lie in the other. The uniform he wears is brand new, creased from the store hanger. He does not need this job, but he needs the truth it will give him. His daughter built this house with code and ambition after the world left her with nothing. Today he will walk through these gates as a stranger, invisible in his disguise. The man who wants to marry her will never see him coming. 15 years ago, in a single room in Ajagunal, a woman named Adiz packed 3 bags while her husband stood frozen and their 6-year-old daughter watched from the doorway. The girl clutched a teddy bear with one eye missing. She would remember every detail of this moment for the rest of her life. Adiz's hands trembled as she folded the last wrapper, her wedding gift from 7 years ago. When she finally spoke, her voice was ice. "I did not marry poverty, Chikwudi. I married a man who promised me a future." Chikwudi stood there in his factory uniform, still stained with machine oil from the morning shift. His salary was 3 months delayed, the factory owner always promising next week, next month. He knew exactly what his wife meant, and he hated that he had no argument left. "Chief Okonkwo owns half of Victoria Island," Adiz said quietly, not looking at her husband. "He has asked me to marry him. I have accepted." "What about Chioma?" Chikwudi whispered, his voice breaking on their daughter's name. Adiz could not look at the small girl still standing in the doorway, teddy bear pressed to her chest. "She will understand when she is older." The door closed behind Adiz that morning and did not open again for 15 years. Chioma stopped asking where Mama went after the first year, stopped crying after the second. By the 3rd year, she simply worked. She sold oranges before school, carrying a basin on her head like the other market children. After classes, she washed plates at Mama Ngozi's buka, hands raw from detergent. At night, she did homework by candlelight while her father counted coins for tomorrow's transport. At 14, she won a full scholarship to study software engineering. At 19, she built her first app in a cyber cafe that charged by the minute, racing against the clock and her own hunger. At 23, she sold that app for more money than her father had earned in his entire life. Now at 29, Chioma owns the 3rd largest fintech company in West Africa. The glass mansion on Banana Island is hers, bought with code she wrote and poverty she refused to accept. But success brought visitors her father never trusted. But wealth brought a different kind of hunger. The kind that wore expensive suits and studied bank statements the way other men studied faces. The kind that saw Chioma not as a woman, but as an opportunity with a pulse. 3 months ago, a man named Tunde Delik appeared at her company's investor gala. Range Rover Sport in the parking lot. Confidence worn like a second skin. The kind of entrance designed to make women like Chioma look twice. "Your company is impressive," he told her over champagne that night. "But you, Chioma, you are more impressive than any balance sheet." Words chosen with surgical precision, delivered with eyes that never left hers. Within 6 weeks, Tunde had studied her like a textbook. 14 dinners at restaurants he knew she'd love. Flowers arriving at her office every Monday morning, without fail. He learned exactly which words made her smile, which silences made her lean closer. 2 months in, he proposed on the rooftop of Eco Hotel. The ring cost less than Chioma spent on quarterly tax, but she didn't notice that part. She said yes anyway, because loneliness makes people reckless, and success had left her hungry for something money couldn't buy. What Chioma didn't know was that Tunde Delik's Range Rover was leased on credit he couldn't afford. His investor credentials were borrowed from a cousin's firm, and his interest in her ended exactly where her bank account began, not 1 naira before it. But Chikwudi knew. A father who raised a daughter alone learns to see the shape of lies before they're fully formed. He recognized the pattern because he'd watched his wife fall for the exact same kind of promise. "Papa," Chioma had said 3 weeks ago, sitting in his small flat in Surulere. "Tunde wants to move into the mansion before the wedding. He says it will help us adjust to married life." Her voice carried hope, but her eyes asked for permission to believe. Chikwudi watched his daughter's face when she said it. He saw the same hope her mother once wore, the kind that blinds people to what they already know, the kind that makes them trade their instincts for the promise of not being alone. "What does Tun do for a living?" he asked carefully. Chioma hesitated. Just long enough to confirm his suspicion. Just long enough to prove she'd never actually asked. "He consults for investment firms," she finally answered, her voice less certain than before. That night, Chakudi made 3 phone calls to people who owed him favors from his factory days. Men who knew how to ask questions without leaving fingerprints. What they told him about Tunda Delik made his chest tighten with the kind of anger only fathers understand. Tund had approached 2 other wealthy women in the past 18 months. One relationship ended when she refused to add his name to her property deed. The other ended when her father hired investigators. Both women had been successful. Both had been lonely. Both had been marks. Chakudi could tell Chioma what he learned. He could sit her down and show her the pattern. But she would defend Tund the way people defend their own mistakes, eyes wide, voice rising, until the truth became the enemy. So he chose a different path. If you want to know a man's character, his own father once told him, watch how he treats people who cannot do anything for him. The words came back now, 30 years later, sharp as broken glass. 2 days later, Chakudi visited Chioma's head of staff. Mrs. Okafor was a sharp-eyed woman who had worked for his daughter since the beginning, the kind who noticed when a receipt did not add up or a story changed between tellings. "I need you to hire me as a janitor." He said it in the kitchen of the mansion while Chioma was at a board meeting. Mrs. Okafor stared at him like he had lost his senses, her wooden spoon frozen halfway to the pot. "Sir, with respect, you are Chioma's father. She will recognize you the moment she sees you." Mrs. Okafor's voice dropped to a whisper sharp enough to cut. "Chioma is in London for 3 weeks negotiating a merger," Chakudi said quietly. "Tund is here alone in her house. I need to see what he does when nobody is watching, when he thinks the only eyes on him belong to the help." Mrs. Okafor studied the old man's face for a long moment. The kitchen clock ticked. Then she nodded once. "I will tell the staff you are my cousin from the village, but if Tund recognizes you, this plan ends badly." "He will not recognize me," Chakudi said. Chioma stopped bringing him to visit after the second time. "He has seen my face exactly twice, and both times he was looking at his phone, scrolling through something more important than an old man's handshake. And that is how a man who once built generators with his bare hands became a janitor in the house his own daughter owned. Pride is a luxury you surrender when the stakes are high enough." Now Chakudi stands at the gate in a gray uniform that smells like industrial detergent. He holds a mop and a bucket. The mansion rises behind the security guard like something from a magazine his younger self would never have believed possible. The guard barely glances at him. That is what happens when you dress like you are invisible. People stop seeing you. They look straight through you to whatever matters more. Mrs. Okafor meets him at the service entrance and hands him a staff badge with a fake name. "From today you are Mr. Ephraim. You clean the ground floor and the garage. You do not speak unless spoken to." "Understood," Chakudi says, and the word tastes like ash in his mouth. He follows Mrs. Okafor through marble hallways he walked with Chioma the day she bought this place, when she held his arm and asked if he was proud. Now he walks 3 steps behind, eyes down, a stranger in his daughter's dream. The mansion is everything poverty is not. White leather sofas that cost more than a year's rent in the one-room apartment where he raised her alone. Chandeliers that throw light like broken stars across floors, so polished Chakudi can see his own face staring back, older now, lined with years of night shifts and skipped meals. This is what she built from nothing. She built this empire with her own hands while other girls her age were still asking their fathers for pocket money. And now someone wants to take it all, piece by piece, simply by whispering 3 words into her ear. "I love you." He is mopping the entrance hall on his second morning when he hears it. A voice that makes his grip tighten on the mop handle, sharp and cold, cutting through the quiet of the house like a blade. "You there, janitor." The words land like a slap. "These floors are still wet. Do you people not know how to do anything properly?" Chakudi's heart hammers against his ribs, but he keeps his face empty, neutral. The mask he has worn 1,000 times before when men with money spoke down to men without it. Chakudi looks up slowly and sees him for the first time in 3 months. Tund, his daughter's choice, standing there in a designer polo shirt that costs more than Chakuti's monthly pension. Gold watch catching the light, expensive cologne hanging in the air, and eyes that look right through him like he is furniture. Like he is nothing. "Sorry, sir. I will dry them now." The words feel like swallowing glass, but Chakuti says them anyway, bowing his head the way Tund expects, the way men like Tund have always expected servants to bow. He has done harder things than this for his daughter. "Make sure you do," Tund snaps, already walking away. His expensive shoes track wet footprints across the floor Chakuti just spent 20 minutes cleaning, perfect prints of disrespect pressed into marble. He does not look back, not even once, because why would he? First test failed. And the wedding is still 6 weeks away. 6 weeks of watching this man walk through his daughter's life like he is already won. Chakuti grips the mop tighter and gets back to work. Over the next 3 days, Chakuti mops floors, empties bins, scrubs toilets, and watches. He watches Tund move through Chioma's house like a king surveying his castle, touching everything with the confidence of a man who believes it already belongs to him. And maybe it does if Chioma says yes. Tund eats breakfast the cook prepares at dawn without saying thank you, leaves his gym clothes on the bathroom floor for someone else to pick up, speaks to the staff in commands, not requests. Please does not exist in his vocabulary. Only do this, bring that, hurry up. Every word another brick in the wall Chakuti is building in his mind. On day 4, Chakuti is polishing the living room coffee table when Tund walks in, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and smooth. He glances at Chakuti the way you glance at a chair, confirmation it exists, then keeps talking like the room is empty. "Relax," Tund says into the phone, his voice smooth as oil. "The wedding is in 6 weeks. After that, this house is ours. She already promised to add my name to the deed as a wedding gift." Chakuti freezes mid-stroke with the mop, every muscle locked. His hand tightens on the mop handle hard enough to hurt, but he keeps his head down, eyes on the floor, face carved from stone. One wrong look right now, and everything shatters. "I know what I am doing," Tund continues, his back still turned. "Once my name is on the property, I can leverage it for the loans we need." She is too in love to ask questions. Each word lands like a punch Chakuti cannot block. The voice on the other end says something that makes Tund laugh. Not the warm laugh Chioma hears at dinner. This one is cold, sharp, the sound of a man counting money that is not his yet. "Trust me," Tund says, almost a whisper now. "She is not like the other ones. This one actually believes I love her." Behind him, something breaks inside Chakuti that will never be whole again. Tund ends the call and finally notices Chakuti standing 10 feet away, mop in hand. For half a second their eyes meet and Chakuti sees the calculation happening behind that polished smile. "How long have you been standing there?" Not a question. A demand, voice suddenly sharp enough to cut. Chakuti feels the weight of everything riding on his next breath. "I just came in, sir." Chakuti lies, the words smooth as if he has been practicing for exactly this moment. "I am here to clean the windows." He gestures to the glass with the mop like evidence. Tund studies him for a long, uncomfortable moment. Every second stretches like hours. Then he waves him away like he is dismissing a fly, something beneath notice, beneath suspicion. Chakuti bows and moves to the windows, but his hands shake slightly as he sprays the glass. Because he now knows exactly what his daughter cannot see, what her love has made her blind to, what will destroy her if he does not act. That night, he sits alone in the staff quarters and writes down everything he heard, word for word. Every lie, every calculated sentence. Because when the time comes, Chioma will need proof, not just a father's suspicion, not just a broken heart's warning. But proof is not enough if she does not want to believe it. And Chakuti knows his daughter inherited her mother's stubbornness along with her brilliance, the same iron will that once chose wealth over love. History, he fears, is about to repeat itself. The next morning, Tund walks through the front door with a stranger in an expensive suit. He spreads blueprints across Chioma's dining table like he owns the place. The architect leans in, nodding as Tund points to rooms Chioma built with her own hands. Chakuti mops near the doorway and hears Tund describing a home theater and wine cellar. His daughter told him no to those exact additions 2 weeks ago, said they were wasteful. But Tun talks like her opinion was just an opening offer in a negotiation he has already won. Chakudi sets down his mop and asks if Madam approved these changes. Tun looks at him the way you look at furniture that spoke. She will approve them, he says with a smile that does not reach his eyes, once she sees how much value they add. The architect names his price, 18 million naira. Tun does not flinch, does not ask for options, does not reach for his own wallet. He just asks how soon they can start after the wedding, spending money that is not as like it already is. Chakudi watches them walk out to the driveway, shaking hands like partners closing a deal. Tund is already spending his daughter's fortune in his mind, redesigning her home into something that serves him. The wedding is still 3 weeks away, and he is already moving in. That afternoon, Chioma comes home with her blazer over her arm and exhaustion in her eyes. She just closed an 85 million naira contract, her biggest deal in 10 years of building this company from nothing. Tund is waiting in the living room with champagne already poured and roses in a crystal vase. He celebrates her success before she finishes explaining it, kissing her cheek and calling her brilliant. For a moment, it feels like he really sees her. Then she mentions the contract requires travel to Abuja twice a month for 6 months. Tun's smile drops like someone cut the strings holding it up. The champagne glass stops halfway to his lips, and the warmth drains from his eyes. "You will be a married woman soon," he says in a voice that sounds careful and measured. Married women need to be home more than they need to be in Abuja. He is not asking, he is instructing. Chioma laughs because surely he is joking. Surely the man who just celebrated her success is not trying to cage it. But Tund is not laughing. His jaw is set and his eyes are cold and serious. "This is my company, Tund," she says slowly, each word deliberate. "This contract is what I have worked toward for 3 years. Her voice is steady, but her hands are starting to shake. "And I am what you will be working toward for the rest of your life," Tund replies. "We need to discuss priorities before this wedding, not after." The mask is off now, and underneath it is a man who has already decided what her life will look like. Chakudi stands frozen in the hallway, mop in hand, as Tund's voice cuts through the door. Every word lands like a punch. His knuckles go white around the handle, the only thing keeping him from bursting through that door and ending this charade right now. Chioma's voice rises sharp enough to cut glass. It is a sound Chakudi has not heard in 20 years, not since she was 16 screaming at her mother for walking out. That anger had nearly destroyed her then. "You knew who I was when you proposed," she says, each word deliberate and measured. "You knew I built this company from nothing. You said you admired that strength, that independence." "I do admire it," Tund replies, voice smooth as silk and just as slippery. "But admiration and marriage are different things entirely, my love. We will find balance after the wedding." The argument ends with Chioma walking away, but through the crack in the door Chakudi sees something that makes his chest tighten. That look in her eyes, the slight nod to herself. She is already making excuses for him, already convincing herself it will be different. That night in the cramped staff quarters, Chakudi adds another page to his growing file. Notes, observations, every red flag carefully documented. But the papers feel weightless in his hands, useless against the grip Tund already has on his daughter's heart. The next morning, a black Mercedes pulls up unannounced. Tund's mother steps out draped in expensive lace and enough gold jewelry to fund a small business. She sweeps through the front door like she is already measuring the house for new curtains. Chioma is at the office, so Tund gives his mother the full tour himself. He points out the imported Italian marble, the smart home system, the custom everything. His hand sweeps across each room like he is already signing the deed. "My son chose well," the woman announces loud enough for every member of the staff to hear. "This house will produce fine children and even finer returns on our investment." Chakudi is washing the windows 3 feet away when that word returns hits him like ice water. Not love, not family, not partnership. Returns. It confirms every suspicion, validates every sleepless night spent documenting the truth. When Chioma returns that evening, Tund's mother embraces her like they are already family. "My daughter," she coos, pulling her close. Then, immediately, before even asking about the wedding plans, when will I have grandchildren to spoil? Chioma handles it with grace, smile perfectly in place, but Chakwoody knows his daughter. He sees the tension locked in her shoulders, the way her eyes keep darting to Tund for backup that never arrives. She is drowning and her fiancé is watching from the shore. Dinner that evening feels like a performance Chioma didn't audition for. Tund's mother sets down her wine glass, smiling at no one in particular, and mentions how her friend's daughter just quit her very promising career to focus on what really matters, she adds, her eyes landing on Chioma like a judge delivering a verdict. The silence that follows is thick enough to cut. She continues without waiting for a response, each word landing like a stone. A woman's true wealth is in her home, not in boardrooms and contracts. Businesses come and go, she says, reaching for the bread, but family is forever. Chioma's fork hovers above her plate, suspended in the moment before impact. Chioma's smile is all surface when she finally speaks, no warmth behind it. Some women build both, she says quietly, her voice steady, but her knuckles white around the stem of her glass. Tund jumps in before his mother can respond, steering the conversation toward the weather, the wedding flowers, anything safer than the truth hanging in the air. After his mother finally leaves, Tund wraps his arms around Chioma from behind and tells her she handled that beautifully. But there is something in his voice, a note of disappointment disguised as praise, like he is congratulating her for damage control rather than defending herself. You are perfect, he says, kissing her temple, and somehow it feels like criticism. Chakwoody lies on his narrow bed in the servants' quarters that night, staring at ceiling cracks he has memorized. He thinks about Adiz, his ex-wife, and the moment she chose a wealthier man over their small life together. Did she see red flags too? He wonders, warnings she convinced herself were just differences she could smooth over with time. The ceiling offers no answers, only the echo of his own mistakes reflected in his daughter's eyes. 3 weeks until the wedding and the mansion transforms into something Chioma no longer controls. Vendors march through with flower samples and fabric swatches, wedding planners bark instructions into headsets, and Tund's relatives arrive in waves treating the place like a luxury resort they have already inherited. Chakwoody mops the same hallway 3 times as strangers track mud through rooms that used to be sacred. Chakwoody finds Tund's uncle in the library one afternoon, running his thick fingers along the spines of first editions like he is appraising livestock. He calls Tund over with a laugh and asks if Chioma actually reads all this rubbish, or if it is just for decoration. The question hangs in the air, casual cruelty dressed up as humor. Tund laughs, that easy charming sound that first made Chioma fall for him, and tells his uncle she is very educated. But the way he says it, like he is describing an eccentric hobby or a pet's unusual trick, makes Chakwoody's chest tighten. It is the tone of a man tolerating something rather than celebrating it, indulging a quirk he expects will fade after the vows. The next morning, Chakwoody finds Chioma alone in her office, the Abuja contract spread across her desk like evidence at a crime scene. She is staring at it without seeing it, and when she notices him in the doorway, she asks the question that has clearly been eating her alive. "Do you think I am making the right choice?" she says, her voice smaller than he has ever heard it. "About what, madam?" Chakwoody asks carefully, though they both know exactly what she means. She gestures at everything around them, the wedding binders stacked on the credenza, the samples cluttering her workspace, the life closing in. "All of it," she whispers, and the weight of those 2 words could crush diamonds. Chakwoody chooses his words like a man defusing a bomb. "It is not my place to say, madam," he begins, then decides that if he only gets one shot at this he better make it count. "But a woman who built all this from nothing," he continues, "deserves a man who celebrates every contract she signs, not one who questions whether she should sign them at all." Chioma studies his face for a long moment, really looks at him for perhaps the first time since he arrived. Something flickers in her eyes, recognition trying to surface through years of absence and pain. For one suspended heartbeat, Chakwoody thinks she sees him, truly sees the father she lost standing in janitor's clothes wielding a mop instead of a life he abandoned. But then Tund's voice cuts through from downstairs, sharp and impatient. The moment shatters. Chioma thanks the old janitor without really looking at him anymore and rushes toward her fiancé's call. Chakudi watches her go, and the ache in his chest deepens. Time is slipping through Chakudi's fingers like sand. 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks until vows are spoken and papers are signed. Once Chioma becomes Tun's wife, the harmless old janitor will have no reason to stay in this house. And whatever truth he came to uncover will be buried under wedding bells and legal contracts. The next afternoon, Tun steps into the garden for a phone call. Chakudi is nearby, trimming hedges with steady, deliberate cuts. Close enough to look invisible. Close enough to hear every single word that Tun thinks no one else can hear. Yes, the timeline is still good, Tun says into the phone, his voice low and confident. 3 weeks until the wedding. Then 6 months to transfer the major assets. The hedge trimmer keeps moving in Chakudi's hands, but his entire body has gone cold. The voice on the other end must ask about Chioma's company, because Tun laughs. Actually laughs. Once we're married, her signature is my signature, he says. Legally speaking. The words hang in the air like poison. She has no family to interfere. Tun continues, his tone almost gleeful now. No father to ask difficult questions. It's perfect. Each word lands like a blade in Chakudi's chest. Chakudi's hands freeze on the hedge trimmer. No father to ask difficult questions. Tun just said it out loud. Admitted it. The very thing Chakudi feared most, confirmed in 6 casual words from a man who thinks he has already won. Every fiber of Chakudi's being wants to throw down the trimmer and reveal himself right there. To show Tund exactly how wrong he is, how badly he has miscalculated. But his daughter's face flashes in his mind, the way she looks at Tund, the trust in her eyes. So he forces himself to stay still, to keep trimming, to remain invisible, because exploding now will only push Chioma closer to Tund, make her defend him harder, choose him over the truth. Chakudi knows his daughter, and he knows how this has to play out. He needs Chioma to see it herself, to catch Tund in a lie so clear, so undeniable, that even love cannot explain it away. The only way to save his daughter is to let her discover the monster wearing the mask she calls her future. That night, Chakudi calls an old friend, Emeka, a private investigator who has owed him a favor for years, the kind of favor you call in when everything is on the line. The phone rings twice before a familiar voice answers. I need everything on a man named Tund Adeyemi, Chakudi says, his voice steady as steel. His business. His debts. His past. Everything he does not want my daughter to know. There is a long pause on the other end, and Chakudi can hear Emeka processing what was just said. Emeka goes quiet. Then, the question Chakudi has been running from for weeks. Does she know you're back? The silence that follows is heavier than any answer. No. The word comes out almost like a confession. And she can't know. Not until I'm certain about this man. Not until I have proof she can't ignore. You're playing a dangerous game, my friend. Emeka's voice carries a warning. 15 years of friendship has earned him the right to give. What if you're wrong about him? What if she finds out you lied? Then I lose her twice. Chakudi's answer comes without hesitation because he has already counted this cost 1,000 times in the dark. But if I'm right and I do nothing, I lose her forever to a man who will destroy everything she built. Emeka agrees to help. He promises results within a week, calls in favors, contacts people who owe him. But a week feels like a lifetime when the wedding is 18 days away and counting down. The next morning, Chioma announces she's taking Tund to Abuja. 2 days with her design team, she says, eyes bright with excitement. She wants him to see her world. Everything she's built from nothing. Tund agrees with that perfect smile of his. But the moment Chioma leaves the room, he makes a phone call. Canceling meetings he never told her about. Rescheduling plans she doesn't know exist. Chakudi is in the hallway, polishing a mirror that doesn't need polishing. He hears every word. 2 days in Abuja is a small price to pay, Tund says to whoever is listening, for the return I'm about to collect. While they're in Abuja, Chakudi searches Tund's study. His hands move through desk drawers, filing cabinets, shelves lined with books that have never been opened. He needs something concrete. Something his daughter can't explain away or forgive. Bottom drawer. A folder labeled post-wedding assets in neat handwriting that makes Chikwudy's blood run cold. Inside, property valuations for this house. Projections for liquidating Chioma's company. Timelines. Numbers. A blueprint for dismantling his daughter's entire life. Chikwudy photographs every page. His hands are shaking so badly the first 3 shots come out blurred. He finally has proof. Hard evidence that his instincts were right all along. But even now, he knows it might not be enough. Because the cruelest truth he's learned in 15 years is simple. People only see what they're ready to see. And Chioma, his brilliant, successful, desperately in love daughter? She's not ready yet. Not even close. Chikwudy slides the printed photos between the thin pages of Deuteronomy, the old Bible his own father gave him 40 years ago. No one touches a janitor's cart. No one looks inside a janitor's Bible. He closes the cover and pushes the cart back into the storage room. Then he waits. 2 days later, Chioma bursts through the front door like sunlight, her voice bright with excitement about the Abuja trip. The investors Tund connected her with, the expansion into 3 new states, the private dinner where they talk numbers until midnight. She glows when she speaks his name. She does not see what Chikwudy sees from across the room. Tund scrolling through his phone while she talks, his eyes never lifting to meet hers. The constant buzzing of messages, he turns away from her to read. The way he smiles at his screen instead of at her face. Across the dinner table that evening, Chikwudy watches Tund's eyes and sees the future playing out behind them. A man counting money that is not his yet. A man measuring square footage and calculating resale value. A man looking at his daughter and seeing nothing but a ladder rung he is about to step off of. That night, Chioma finds him cleaning the same window for the 3rd time, his cloth moving in circles that go nowhere. Papa John, she calls him. Is something wrong? Her voice carries the kind of concern she used to have as a little girl. The words almost break free. His hand moves toward his pocket where the phone sits heavy with proof. He opens his mouth and Tund's voice cuts through from upstairs. Baby, are you coming to bed? Chioma's face softens at the sound. The moment crumbles to dust in Chikwudy's hand. The staff quarters ceiling has a crack that runs corner to corner like a scar. Chikwudy stares at it until dawn, trying to find an answer that does not exist. 3 weeks until the wedding. 21 days until Tund becomes family. Time running through his fingers like water. Morning brings a woman in a gray suit sharp enough to cut glass, a leather briefcase in one hand and documents in the other. She asks for Tund by his first name like they have done this before. The kind of lawyer you hire when you are building something meant to last. Chikwudy mops the marble hallway outside the study in slow, deliberate strokes, each pass bringing him closer to the door Tund left cracked open. Through the gap, he hears a revocable trust once, then twice, then a 3rd time like a curse being spoken into existence. The legal terms wash over Chikwudy like cold water, but the meaning comes through clear. Tund is building cages made of signatures and notary seals. Joint ownership that flows one direction. Romantic gestures with teeth hidden in the fine print that will lock shut the moment Chioma says I do. The lawyer leaves and Tund steps into the hallway where Chikwudy is wringing out his mop. Their eyes meet. 5 seconds that stretch like hours. Tund's head tilts slightly, as if searching his memory for a face that should not be here, a puzzle piece that does not fit. Chikwudy drops his gaze and keeps his hands moving, muscle memory taking over while his heart hammers against his ribs. If Tund recognizes him now, if the disguise fails before he can expose the truth, then 15 years of distance collapse into nothing and Chioma loses everything anyway. That afternoon, the doorbell rings. Chioma's business partner Nkem stands on the porch, her smile tight, her eyes searching. She says she was in the neighborhood, but Chikwudy can see the lie in how her hands grip her purse. Something has brought her here, something urgent enough that she could not wait for a phone call. Chikwudy brings tea to the sitting room, hands steady, ears open. Nkem does not waste time on pleasantries. She leans forward and asks Chioma directly if she has looked at the prenuptial agreement Tund's lawyer sent. The question hangs in the air like smoke. Chioma blinks, caught off guard, and Chikwudy watches her defenses rise before she even answers. Chioma laughs, the sound too bright, too defensive. She says Tun told her they do not need a prenup because real love means sharing everything equally. The words sound rehearsed, like she is convincing herself more than Nkem. Nkem's teacup stops halfway to her mouth. For 3 full seconds, no one breathes. Nkem sets the cup down slowly, carefully, the porcelain clicking against the saucer like a gavel. She says that sharing everything equally is exactly what a prenup ensures. That refusing to sign one is not trust, it is the red flag. Not requesting it, refusing it. Chakudi sees Chioma's jaw tighten, sees the truth trying to break through and her pride pushing it back down. Chioma's smile dies. She tells Nkem she sounds like someone who has never been in love, and the words cut like glass. The room temperature drops 10 degrees. Nkem does not flinch, but Chakudi sees the hurt flash across her face before she buries it under something harder. Nkem stands, her chair scraping against marble. She says she has been Chioma's partner for 7 years. That she was there when the company was 3 people in a rented office with no furniture. That she helped build every single thing Chioma owns, and she will not stand here and watch it be dismantled by a man Chioma has known for 8 months. The math is brutal. Chioma has no answer for it. Chioma tells her to leave. Her voice shakes with anger, with betrayal, with fear she will not admit to. Nkem walks to the door, stops, turns back. She says she hopes she is wrong, but the sad truth is she knows she is not. The door closes softly behind her, and that softness is somehow worse than a slam. Chakudi watches his daughter sit alone in that room for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. She does not cry. She does not move. And in her face he sees his ex-wife, the same stubborn certainty that love is enough, that loyalty proves itself by refusing to protect yourself. History does not repeat, but it rhymes, and the rhyme is breaking his heart. 2 days later, Tund has a suggestion. He says they should sign the property transfer papers early, before the wedding chaos begins. Just to simplify things. Just to make it easier. He smiles when he says it, warm and reasonable, and Chakudi feels ice spread through his chest because the trap is closing and his daughter cannot see the bars. He frames it as romance. A gesture of complete trust. Chioma is still raw from the fight with Nkem, still angry at being questioned, still desperate to prove everyone wrong. So she says yes immediately. Yes, let us do it now. Yes, I trust you. Chakudi watches her rush toward the cliff with her eyes closed, calling it faith. Chakudi is in the room when it happens. Tund pulls out the folder, the same one from the photographs, the one that will transfer everything Chioma owns into his name. He lays the papers on the dining table like they are nothing, like they are just another wedding detail. Chioma reaches for them, trusting, eager to prove her point. Chioma reaches for the pen. Chakudi's hands move before his mind catches up. The water jug slips from his grip, glass exploding across marble like a gunshot. Everything stops. In that frozen second, the pen is still an inch from her fingers, and her entire future hangs in the balance of broken glass. Tun jumps back, cursing as water and glass spread across the floor. Chioma drops the pen and rushes to Chakudi, her hands on his arms, asking if he's hurt. Those 30 seconds are all he needs. The contract stays unsigned, at least for now. Tun's face goes cold as he watches her kneel beside the old man. His voice is calm when he tells her they'll sign tomorrow instead, when there are no distractions. But his eyes have already calculated how much this delay will cost him. That night, Chakudi lies awake knowing he's out of time. Tomorrow she signs and everything she built disappears into Tun's accounts. The pretending ends tonight, even if the truth costs him the daughter he only just found again. He finds her in the garden at midnight, sitting on the same bench where she used to read as a child. Back when this mansion was still just a dream, she whispered to herself in a one-room apartment. Back when it was just the two of them against the world. Chakudi sits beside her without asking permission. She doesn't send him away, just keeps staring at the fountain her mother never lived to see. The fountain bought with money her mother said would never come. He tells her he's worked in many houses for many rich people over the years. The ones who stay rich are the ones who protect what they built before they share it. The ones who fall are the ones who trust too easily. Chioma says she's not trying to stay rich. She's trying to build a life with someone she loves. Chakwoodi's voice cracks when he asks the question that's been burning in his chest for weeks. How does she know Tund loves her back? She turns to look at him, then really look at him for the first time. Why does a janitor care so much about her business decisions? Why does his voice shake when he talks about her future? Chakwoodi almost tells her everything right there. Almost says, I am your father, and I failed you once, and I will not fail you again. But fear chokes the words back down his throat. What if she hates him for the years he let her think he was dead? Instead, he says he had a daughter once who trusted the wrong person. He wasn't there to stop her, and he's carried that failure every single day since. His voice breaks on the word daughter. Chioma's eyes soften, and she asks what happened to his daughter. Chakwoodi tells her the truth in a way she won't recognize yet. She survived, and she became stronger than anyone expected, including him. They sit in silence for a long moment, the fountain the only sound between them. Then Chioma says she'll read the papers more carefully tomorrow before signing. Chakwoodi knows it's not enough, but it's something. Maybe enough to save her. By morning, something has shifted. Tund moves through the house like a man on a deadline, jaw tight, words clipped. He barks at the housekeeper over coffee placement, checks his phone every 30 seconds. Whatever calm he wore yesterday is gone. Chakwoodi is wiping down the hallway mirror when he hears it. Tund's voice, low and urgent, coming from the study. The timeline has moved up. He needs the transfers completed by Friday or the entire deal collapses. Friday. 3 days away. This is not just greed. Tund has already pledged Chioma's wealth to someone else, used it as leverage for something bigger. He is not stealing her fortune. He is spending it before he even owns it, and if she does not sign, he goes down hard. When Chioma comes downstairs, Tund is all charm again. Wide smile, light touch on her arm. The lawyer can only meet today, he says. They should sign now, celebrate over lunch after. His tone makes it sound romantic, inevitable. Chioma hesitates. She wants Nkem to review the papers first, she says. Just to be sure. And for half a second, Tund's smile freezes. The warmth drains from his eyes before he catches himself and rebuilds it. Does she trust Nkem more than she trusts him? Is she letting a jealous business partner poison what they have built together? His voice is soft, wounded, but each word lands like an accusation. Like she is the one breaking faith. Chioma says it is not about trust, it is about being smart. And Tund's voice drops, quiet and intimate. Love is not smart, he says. Love is a leap. He makes doubt sound like cowardice, caution like betrayal. If she is not ready to leap with him, maybe they should postpone the wedding. Until she is sure. He says it gently like a suggestion, but it lands like a threat. Chioma's face drains of color. From the hallway, Chakwoodi watches it unfold. Tund wielding her fear of losing him like a scalpel, cutting away every defense. The manipulation is so clean, so practiced, it could pass for devotion. Almost. But not quite. Chioma reaches for the pen. Chakwoodi steps into the room. Gate security called, he says, keeping his voice steady. There is a problem with Tund's car. Needs immediate attention. It is a lie, and both men know it. But Tund cannot ignore it without looking suspicious. He leaves the room, movements tight with barely controlled fury. The look he gives Chakwoodi on his way out is pure murder.
Just not the kind he can act on. Yet.
The second he is gone, Chakwoodi pulls out his phone. Shows Chioma everything. The property valuations. The liquidation timelines. The projected sale dates. All of it. Every piece of evidence he has gathered while cleaning her floors. Chioma's hands begin to tremble as she stares at the screen. The photos show everything, valuations, timelines, liquidation plans, all laid out like a blueprint. Her voice barely rises above a whisper. Where did you get these? Chakwoodi's voice stays steady. He found them in Tund's study, hidden but not hidden enough. He has been watching for weeks now, documenting, waiting. Everything Nkem warned her about was real. She scrolls through photo after photo. Her entire life reduced to asset columns and projected sale dates. There, in cold business language, She sees herself described as the vehicle for acquisition. Not a wife. A transaction. Chioma looks up at him, her eyes searching his weathered face. Who are you really? No janitor risks everything like this for a stranger. No one. Chakwoody opens his mouth. The words are right there. Then Tund walks back in. His face goes cold the instant he sees the phone in Chioma's trembling hands. Tund's voice cuts through the silence. What is going on? Chioma holds up the phone, her hand still shaking, showing him his own documents. She asks him to explain the liquidation schedule dated 3 days after their wedding. 3 days. Tund does not even flinch. He turns to Chakwoody, his expression sharp as a knife. He knew something was wrong about this old man from day one. Knew it. He tells Chioma the janitor is working for her competitors, obviously. Probably planted those documents himself to destroy their relationship. Classic corporate sabotage. Does she not see it? Chioma looks between them. The man she was about to marry, smooth and certain. The janitor, who keeps pulling her back from the edge. She turns to Chakwoody. Who are you?
Tell me now.
Chakwoody reaches up slowly and removes his cap. He says his name, each syllable deliberate. Chakwoody Okafor. Then he waits, watching her face, wondering if 15 years was enough to erase him completely. Chioma's breath catches in her throat. She stumbles backward, and the phone hits the floor. Because she knows that name. She knows it even if she does not recognize the gray-haired stranger standing before her. Tund sees her reaction. His whole expression shifts, calculating now, reading the room. He looks between them, the pieces clicking together. Someone want to explain what is happening right now. Chioma whispers it again.
Papa.
The word fractures on her tongue, splits into 15 years of silence. She has not spoken it since she was 6 years old, standing in her mother's new living room, learning not to ask where he went. Chakwoody nods once. Slow, deliberate. His eyes fill but nothing spills over. Nothing moves except that single acknowledgement. He does not step toward her, does not reach out, because he knows he has not earned the right to touch his daughter yet. Tund laughs. Actually laughs, sharp and ugly in the silence. This is perfect, he says, his voice dripping contempt. The janitor is your deadbeat father, and you still want to lecture me about family values. Chioma turns on him with a fury that makes him physically step back. Shut your mouth, she says, each word a blade. Shut it before I throw you out of this house myself, with my own 2 hands. Tund's face hardens like concrete setting. You're making a mistake, he tells her, voice cold now, controlled. Your father clearly came here to con you now that you have money, now that you're worth something to him. Chakwoody finally speaks. His voice is steady, carries 15 years of watching from a distance. I came, he says, because I needed to know if the man you chose would protect you or use you. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I have been watching for 3 weeks, he continues, and what I saw made me sick to my stomach. Made me remember exactly why I let Adiz take you 15 years ago, why I thought you would be better off without me dragging you down. Tund interrupts, his voice rising now, losing the control. What right do you have to judge anyone? What right, after you abandoned your own daughter for 15 years? You have no moral authority here, old man. Chioma holds up one hand, silencing him without a word. She turns to her father and asks the question she has carried in her chest since she was 6 years old. Why did you let us go, Papa? Why didn't you fight for me? Chakwoody's voice cracks wide open. I did not let you go, he says, the words breaking. I begged Adiz to stay. I begged her on my knees. She told me she would rather raise you alone than watch you grow up poor like she did. I followed you to Lekki that first year, he tells her, voice raw now. I stood outside the gates of the house Adiz's new husband bought. I watched you play in a garden I could never afford, wearing clothes I could never buy, and I thought maybe she was right. Adiz saw me there one evening. She came to the gate herself, told me if I ever came back, she would call the police. Would tell you I was dead. Would erase me completely from your life. And I believed she would do it. So he stayed away. 3 jobs, 7 days a week, every naira saved. He built the logistics company from a single truck he drove himself for 2 years, sleeping in the cab between deliveries, eating 1 meal a day so Chioma's school fees would clear. He shows Chioma the scar on his hand. Year 4, the accident that nearly killed him when a container truck jackknifed on a Papa road. The insurance payout bought 4 more trucks. Blood money that finally let him build something real. He became the man Adiz said she married. Wealthy, connected, respected across Lagos business circles. But by then Chioma was already building her own empire, closing deals he could only dream of. She did not need him anymore. She never would again. Chioma's tears finally come. Her voice breaks when she asks why he did not tell her, why he let her believe he chose poverty over his own daughter. 23 years of silence, and she deserved the truth. Chikwudi's hands shake. He came here to make sure she did not marry a man who would do to her what her mother did to him, would not walk away the moment things got hard. He could not let history repeat itself. He slides the folder across the table. Tund has been planning this for 8 months. Every asset mapped, every account tracked, every property cataloged. The emails to his lawyer spell it out in clinical detail. Tund's polished mask finally cracks. His voice rises, sharp and ugly, as he tells her she is insane if she believes a janitor over the man she was about to marry. The charm is gone. Only contempt remains. Chioma's eyes move across the documents. The emails from Tund's lawyer discussing prenup structures to maximize his claim after 2 years of marriage. The timeline. The calculations. Everything mapped out like a business acquisition. She reads the line that freezes her blood. Subject shows excessive attachment to properties. Recommend positioning as joint investment to accelerate transfer. She was not a woman to him. She was inventory. And something inside her goes very, very still. Tund lunges for the folder, but Chioma steps back, documents held firm. Her voice cuts through the room like ice when she tells him to get out of her house. Not our house. Her house. He switches tactics instantly. His voice goes soft, dripping with false concern, saying she is upset and they can talk about this when she calms down. The manipulation playbook, page 1. Chioma picks up her phone and calls security. Her voice is steady, final. Escort Mr. Adeyemi off the property. If he resists, call the police.
She does not look at him when she says it.
Tund's face twists, the charm stripped away, replaced by something cold and vicious. He steps toward her, voice low and sharp. You'll regret this, Chioma. Nobody in Lagos will touch you when I'm done destroying your reputation. The threat hangs in the air like smoke. Chikwudi steps forward. The quiet janitor is gone. His voice is steady, measured, the voice of a man who has spent 15 years learning patience. I know people too, Tund. People who would be very interested in your financial activities. The color drains from Tund's face. 2 security guards appear in the doorway, broad-shouldered and waiting. Tund looks between them, then at Chioma, searching for a crack in her resolve that isn't there. He turns without another word. His designer shoes echo loud on the marble floor, each step a reminder of everything he will never own. The door closes with a soft click that somehow sounds final. Chioma stands in the center of her mansion, surrounded by Italian marble and custom furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city she conquered. And she starts to shake. Chikwudi moves toward her slowly, each step careful, like approaching something precious that might break. Can I come closer? His voice is gentle now, stripped of everything except the question. She nods because the words won't come yet. I thought you didn't want me. The words come out broken, 15 years of hurt compressed into 6 words. I thought you chose your pride over being my father. Her voice cracks on the last word. Chikwudi's voice breaks when he answers. The first time she has heard him lose control. There was never a day I didn't want you. Not one single day in 15 years. His hands shake at his sides. Why come back as a janitor? She needs to understand. Why not just tell me the truth? Chikwudi's answer is simple, honest. I needed to see who you'd become when nobody important was watching. I needed to see if wealth had changed you. I saw a woman who worked harder than anyone in the building, who remembered the name of every staff member, from the night guard to the cleaner, who built an empire without stepping on anyone to get there. His voice fills with something that sounds like pride. I saw my daughter. His voice drops to almost a whisper. And she was better than I ever dreamed she would be. Does Mama know you're here? The question comes out smaller than she intended. Chakudi shakes his head slowly. Adiz hasn't spoken to me since the day she left. Not a word in 15 years. She remarried within a year. A banker who could give you everything I couldn't. He pauses, and the next words cost him. Everything except the truth about your father. Everything except me. Chioma closes her eyes, and the memories flood back like water breaking through a dam. She remembers sitting in his lap while he read her stories about clever tortoises who outsmarted lions, his voice warm and patient even after the third telling. She remembers his hands, the same hands that just saved her from marrying a con artist, turning pages worn soft from use. She remembers the last morning, watching him cry at the door while her mother dragged her to the car. She thought it was her fault, thought she had done something wrong to make him so sad. For 15 years she carried that weight, never knowing her mother had lied about everything. Chakudi pulls her into his arms, and she does not resist. She just stands there and lets herself be 6 years old again, lets herself be the daughter who never stopped needing her father. For the first time in 15 years, she feels safe enough to stop being strong. He tells her he has followed everything. Every article about her company, every interview, every award. He kept them all in a folder he looks at when the missing gets too heavy, when he needs to remember that somewhere out there, his daughter was alive and thriving. Chioma asks what happens now, and he says that is up to her. He will take whatever she is willing to give, a phone call once a month or dinner once a year. After 15 years of nothing, anything feels like everything. She steps back and looks at him, really looks at him for the first time. She sees the gray in his hair that was not there before, the lines around his eyes that came from years of carrying her absence. The time they lost is written on his face. She asks if he built Okafor Logistics, and he nods. It does 200 million naira a year now, employs 63 people across 4 states. He built it from nothing, the same way she built her empire, because ambition runs in the blood. Chioma laughs through her tears and tells him she used his company last year for a shipment to Abuja. She had no idea, never looked at the name closely enough to see the connection. They were that close and never knew it. Chakudi says he knows. He personally oversaw that delivery, made sure everything arrived perfect because it was hers. Even when she did not know him, he was still protecting her, still being her father in the only way he could. She tells him she wants him to stay, not as a janitor but as her father if he still wants the job. The words come out quiet, but they land like thunder between them, changing everything in a single breath. Chakudi's face breaks into the first real smile she has seen, and he says he has wanted that job since the day she was born. It is the only job that ever mattered, the only title he ever cared about earning. Chioma walks to the window overlooking the garden, the one worth 47 million naira that nearly cost her everything. She asks if he thinks she will ever trust anyone again, her voice small in the enormous room she built but almost lost. Chakudi steps beside her at the window, his reflection steady in the glass. He tells her yes, she will trust again. But next time, she'll trust herself first. She'll listen to that voice that warned her about Tund from day one, the one she buried under hope. The janitor disguise taught him something he never expected. The people who treat you well when you're holding a mop are the only ones worth keeping when you're signing the checks. Everything else is just performance. Chioma asks what comes next for him. He exhales slowly and says he's selling Okafor Logistics. He built that company to prove something to a woman who walked out 15 years ago, a woman who stopped listening the day she left. She spins toward him, eyes fierce. "Don't sell it," she says. "Merge it with mine instead. They'll build something together this time, father and daughter, the way it should have been from the start." Chakudi stares at her like he's seeing her for the first time. "Are you sure?" he asks. Chioma's answer is immediate. She spent 15 years building walls around her empire. She's ready for a partner she can actually trust. 3 months later, the mansion breathes again. Investors in tailored suits, employees raising champagne glasses, all of them celebrating the launch of Okafor Chioma Holdings. The house that almost became a tomb is alive with possibility. Chakudi stands beside his daughter in a suit that actually fits, watching her work the room with the authority she was born with. He thinks about the mop he left in the storage closet that first day, the costume that revealed everything. Chioma catches his eye across the room and smiles. The kind of smile that says she knows exactly what he's thinking, that she hasn't forgotten either. He smiles back, and for the first time in 15 years, he feels complete. That evening, after the caterers pack up and the silence returns, she asks the question that's been sitting between them. Did you ever hear from Tund again? Chakwoody nods slowly. Tund tried to spread rumors, tried to damage her reputation. But 3 of his former clients reached out first to warn her. Turns out she wasn't his first target, just the one who got away. Chioma nods, her jaw tight. She dodged something worse than losing money, she says quietly. She almost lost herself, almost became the kind of person who chooses comfort over truth. Chakwoody takes her hand, his grip steady and sure. The girl who built this empire from nothing will never lose herself, he tells her. She's too much like her father for that.